This is Epic Challenge, where we discuss, debate, and dedicate 20 minutes each week to a hot topic in the world of Warhammer. If you give a damn about tabletop gaming, then this is the show for you. Now, here are your hosts, Kicker and Nicky Dee.
Hey everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Epic Challenge, a show that challenges your ideas on Warhammer so we can discover the Imperial truth, the heresy of chaos, and the obscurity of the Xenos. Kicker, how are you today, bud?
Dude, it is so good to be back. Hey everyone, look, I have a voice.
You do.
I'm relatively back to normal sounding, 80% back, I'd say. So woohoo! How are you doing, Nick? What's going on with you?
I was gonna say, Kicker, back to normal sounding. You're still not normal, but that's all of us in this hobby. So
back to my normalcy, my own personal weird normalcy.
Yeah.
But yeah. This is a good week, man. This is a good week. We got a lot of good things happening. Our guest today is super special.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and introduce him because we got a big time guest for this week, and certainly he is someone that is very busy in the next couple of weeks here. So let's go ahead. Who is our guest this week, Kicker?
So you know what's right around the corner, right? The most prestigious event in the 40K universe, dare I say tabletop universe. It's Adepticon. This is one of the longest running events, and for good reason, right? Yes, it's big and it has exciting tournaments, but really it's the massive convention and all the things that go along with it that make this event so unique. I mean, you got the Golden Demon level sort of stuff happening there, product launches. It's just really cool, not just for 40K, but for so many different game systems and product manufacturers. So this is kind of like the event within our community, and I'm privileged, honored to say that we have one of the co-founders of Adepticon here. This is the legendary Matt Weeks. Can we bring him on?
There we go. There's Matt. Matt, how are you today? Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Now, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, but you Adepticon's what, 20 years going now? Maybe a little longer than that?
About 22, yeah.
22 years. It is amazing. And so it's you and one, maybe two other co-founders that have kind of spearheaded this thing to grow from a relatively small convention to this massive monstrosity of a thing that it is now, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of had a life of its own over the past couple of decades. I mean, we started out just running events at local shops and campaigns within the Chicago area. Nothing really super formalized under the Adepticon banner. We used to be a game club called Adeptus Windy City prior to that. And Adepticon kind of grew out of that. In about 2003, we were brought on to run, I think, just 40K events initially at another local convention. So we kind of did a con within a con. We did that for a couple of years, and in the beginning of year 3, we just decided, we could do this ourselves. And then that's kind of when it just started to gain momentum year over year,
Yeah, I mean, I know this year's a huge deal. We're really exploding. I mean, I'm really grateful and honored to be part of the team that's coming on to help grow it even more. But like, you guys are now moving from basically Chicago area to Milwaukee, where you have this brand new giant facility, which is going to allow you guys to really expand over the years. So the sky's the limit. I mean, we're just getting started, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is our 6th venue, I want to say, over the past 20 years. And, we've kind of bounced around from like hotel properties for the most part. The last location, the last several years in Schaumburg at the Renaissance was our most kind of like official convention space, even though it was relatively small in the grand scheme of things. And we've just we've been 2 years maybe on of being outgrowing there. So we really started to look around, probably right around the COVID era, to be honest. But then, of course, pump the brakes on a lot of things there, right?
Yeah.
And we had looked at, the facilities in the Chicago area multiple times, and we're just kind of looking for that place we could transplant the vibe of Adepticon into a new facility that didn't, kind of crush what we had built over the last, at that point, 17, 18 years. So and Milwaukee just hit it. The minute you walked in the door, you were like, oh, this is it. Like,
this is it.
There's no other choice for us. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that people are going to be very pleasantly surprised once they show up on site and see, oh, look, not only is the venue great, but everything around the venue is great too. All the pubs and restaurants. I mean, it's perfect. It's perfect.
It's an experience that our attendees haven't really been able to have because we've been so landlocked. I mean, anybody who's come the last 5 years can tell you, you don't leave Adepticon because you probably don't get a parking spot when you come back. So, and you were pretty landlocked in Schaumburg. Like there was no walkable restaurants or any real type of facilities or attractions. So now we have the whole of downtown Milwaukee at our disposal.
Literally downtown, smack in the middle. It's amazing. All right, to keep us all accountable, we do this tradition here on our show where we gotta kind of report what we've been doing in the hobby. And I'm pleased to say I've gotten 6, not 1, not 2, not 3, 4, 5, but 6 Kroot Rampagers on my hobby desk right now. I love cavalry models. I feel like it's more like I'm painting 12 models though, because you have the rider and the mount, right? So I should get double credit for that, right? It counts. What about you, Nick? What have you been up to doing?
Well, Kicker, you know this. Our audience may have seen this on our Epic Challenge Facebook and Instagram accounts, but I had a hobby mishap last week. Yeah, I think a lot of people have had it where you're using the hobby knife or the X-Acto knife and you slip or you're not paying attention and you slice your finger. So that I was building some Space Marines and the my chain sword, if you will, hacked into me. Did not require stitches. It's
You said, but they were blood angels or maybe world eaters. They're blood angels.
I mean,
right?
it was a Space Marine. It was the Space Marine captain from the Leviathan set. I'd never gotten around to building him, the Terminator one. So he will be a blood angel, but
Perfect.
with actual blood. But yeah, my finger's healing up nicely. I might have a little bit of a scar there, but that's since then I have gone back to building some models, so I've gotten back onto it. But 20 plus years in the hobby, and this was the first time I've had a hobby mishap on something. So between that and then growing up in Boy Scouts with how much I was using knives, axes, saws, had worked in a kitchen for years, had never had any kind of issues. So this finally was due for me. But yeah, that's it. Matt, have you had time for a hobby aside from working on Adepticon? That's the question for you.
I mean, a little bit. I'm running a 5th edition D&D game weekly.
Nice.
I'm playing another D&D game weekly. So I got 2 RPG nights a week.
Fantastic.
And then I have been slowly picking my way through building a bunch of Legions Imperialis models. So
very cool.
That epic Space Marine epic, that's kind of my first love in that whole genre. And I'm not sure exactly what I'm thinking Sons of Horus, but I'm not 100% sure yet.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Just been building. I love
stuff.
building the little tanks. They're fantastic models. So.
They're so cute. I love these little models. Like I want them just like as like desk art. I just want to have a whole army of tanks just crossing the back behind my laptop here. That's my dream. Hey, Nick, do you want to run into the rules of how the show works?
Yep, absolutely. We're still in the beginning stages of the show. So for the audience and Matt, for you, we thank you for accepting our epic challenge where we discuss the hottest topics in Warhammer. And in this session, one of our hosts will be presenting a topic of debate. Tonight, that's going to be Kicker. And then our guest, Matt, that is you, and other host, me, will be providing our thoughts. This may be educated or informed opinion. This may just be passionate opinions about some of these questions and things that are important to the Warhammer community. And then based on that, we're going to find out if one of us is right, if one of us is wrong, or maybe we're both right or somewhere in between as it goes to all of these parts. Now, with that being the case, Kicker, I am putting on my Imperial Commissar hat and I am giving us the order to move, and let's get this show rolling.
All right, sweet. Well, guys, let's start off with our topic of discussion. Of course, it's going to be event related because we have one of the kings of the industry here. Okay, so what does it take to make an event really something special like Adepticon? Let's go into question number 1 real fast. Matt, this is going to go straight to you.
Sure.
What was the spark that ignited Adepticon's launch? And more importantly, why the hell have you survived all the years while so many other events have kind of fallen apart? There's a lot of reasons, I'm sure, but you got to give us your secret here, man. Why are you so successful?
I mean, I think the spark was just, it was out of just a genuine love for the hobby at the point in time. We're talking the early 2000s. Like, we were all unmarried, no children, lots of free time, and no real responsibilities in the entire world except, hey, get that 1,500 points painted and get down to the GT in Dallas or whatever we were doing, right? And we just saw a lot of, like, I've always been a very, like, kind of community-driven person. I came from, like, I grew up in, like, punk rock, and everything was really, had a lot of communal aspect to it. So I really like the idea of building a community around gaming like that. It'd always been, 5-6 people at a table playing D&D or whatever, but to take it to the next level and organize 30, 40, 50 people in the Chicago area to play campaigns or get together, share thoughts, even share, pictures of models that were painted. We had seen other groups doing that, and we really wanted to have that in Chicago. And that's really what started, was just that sort of that love of community and hobby, and the communal aspect of what a convention can bring. I also think we hit just at the right time, right? Because like GW is getting out of like the grand tournament circuit at that time.
Yeah.
We all really loved that, and we wanted that to continue. And we kind of tried to pick up that torch and run with it with our own little bit of flavor. And with that was more, team-oriented events and things like that as we got into it. So how are we still here? I don't know, man. Like, as anyone who works with me in Adepticon can tell you, I probably spend a month and a half afterwards saying, that's it, I'm out, not doing this anymore. It's over. I got other things to do. I'm too old, whatever. I've said that more times than anything probably, but I still have a great love for it, even though I'm not like a diehard, like say even 40K or Sigmar player anymore, but I still have a great love for what we've built. I'm proud of what we've built. We got a great team, and I love running games. I mean, that might be being a dungeon master or whatever. And to me, Adepticon is just like the greatest game I've run ever, right? So I think that's what keeps going. And I'm also like, I have some, a diagnosable sort of probably ailment that means I just can't. I have to do everything myself. I can't let it go. Perfectionist. So, yeah, I mean, I think we keep it. Our board is very small. We take opinions from a lot of people, but there's only a few people that really end up ultimately making the decisions, and we're all very much in sync. So there's not a lot of conflict when it comes to finding the direction for the event.
Cool. Nick, you've been to a lot of events, man. Have you figured out like what is the special sauce that makes some events, sustainable and exciting year after year?
It really is the feel and the culture, and even Matt will use Adepticon as the as an example. So I have not personally attended Adepticon. That's because it happens to overlap with a very large conference in my day job, which precludes me from doing so each year. But when it's on my list, and at some point I'm going to have to skip that professional conference. It just needs to happen, right? But when I think Adepticon, though, the first thing that comes to mind for me is team tournament. Like Adepticon had like at least in 40K really had the best like first and biggest like team kind of tournament format. Was also really big on the hobby aspect. So even when I was first coming into this game, people would talk about, oh, we're going to this tournament or this event, things like Nova or LVO or anything else like that. But the one thing that was always very clear to me was the folks that really wanted to show off their hobby development, their painting, was Adepticon. It was the painting challenges there, and it was that part where, hey, you want competitive challenges, you can go and get that anywhere. You can get that at Adepticon too, but you really wanted to go and show the hobby part of it or the scheme. That was something that was uniquely Adepticon. So even from the beginning, I think Adepticon it had its own little kind of market carved out, but it has still continued to grow and expand. Even still, I mean, Adepticon has competitive tournament, right? Like, from that part of it, and so you've continued to reward those that go for the original reasons, but yet continuing to grow and to develop the event as well to bring in a larger audience. And Matt, you mentioned having to go to 6 different locations. I mean, that generally is only happening for one reason, and that's happening because you're outgrowing the size and the rooms and need that are needed to support the systems and the work that you're doing. So to me, that's an item that's really impressive in getting audience participant feedback and being true to the original idea of the convention.
I think all that was a real conscious decision too on our part to lean into things like the team tournament and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I tend to
Matt,
agree.
to also lean into the hobby side, the fact that you guys are really leaning to the Army Showcase stuff. So like that's a big deal, right? And a lot of people play the game, but even more people like hobby. I'd say even more people hobby. There's a lot of people that don't even play the game, but they just
Sure.
want to collect the models. And everyone, regardless of if they play 40K or even know what 40K is, can appreciate a beautiful army on a display. Like it doesn't make a difference if you've ever even heard of 40K, but you see
Right.
those beautiful models or Age of Sigmar models or Lord of the Rings or Star Wars Legion models on a beautiful display. And I think Adepticon, that is something that you guys have leaned into year after year, is really honoring and rewarding that hobby side. I think something else that we should touch base on is also hitting critical mass. Once you hit critical mass with an event, all of a sudden now you become that snowball that can keep on growing. And I think Adepticon over the years hit that point, and now you're set up for continual success. It's the events that
Yes.
can't hit that critical mass that kind of just struggle, for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, in the early days, we did a lot of outreach back in the, you're talking back in the bulletin board kind of era,
Yeah.
where everybody had their little pockets of things. We went out, primarily in the Midwest, and we said, oh, hey, the Cincinnati Warhammer group or this Columbus Warhammer group, hey, we're doing this thing. We'd love for you to come, bring a team, whatever.
Yeah,
We did a bunch of outreach like that back, kind of in the DACA era or whatever, right?
Yeah.
We haven't done that in years, and we actually, I mean, I would say for the last couple of years, I actively tried not to grow just because I didn't think we could sustain that growth. But, we have traditionally grown, without even trying 10 to 15% a year. And so, I mean, it does have its natural momentum. It scares me to think what happened if we actually made an effort, but yeah. So, and we see that again this year too.
So we're seeing this event; it keeps on growing and growing. But how do we keep the culture of the event existing, right? How to keep it fun? Everyone that's been to Adepticon knows there's a very distinct culture there. It's fun, and it's weird because you have these cutthroat competitive types right next to cosplaying casuals, right? You have a pretty wide range of players there, but everyone's having a good time. What have you guys done to keep that environment, special and fun?
I mean, a lot of it's in variety of events and exhibitors and things like that. I think, like if we wanted to, say for instance, just be a competitive event and have a huge 40K and Sigmar and whatever tournament, like I'm sure we could do that.
Yeah.
But if you talk to our attendees, like time and time again, like nobody really comes to me and says that was the greatest competitive event I've ever been in. But what they do come to me and say, oh my God, the 40K friendly was amazing.
Yeah.
Or the team tournament was amazing. Or like, so, I mean, those types of events, we know like those are the unique experiences that people can have. And I think as as the wargaming community kind of tends to skew a bit older and gets older as time rolls forward, and a lot of the times this is, perhaps these people's only chance to really get back together with the college friends or whatever, and just be crazy for 3 or 4 days. So that they really appreciate that. And I mean, and to be honest too, like I would feel comfortable saying that the hobby seminar aspect of Adepticon is almost like a con within a con at this point. We have lots and lots and lots of attendees just come and take classes, and that's a whole other world. They're all doing their thing. We have the hobby lounge, and I mean, there are people who will spend 5 straight days just doing that. Never roll a single die.
Nick, do you got any response to this one, or
Culture. So I'll say culture of the event. It's 100%. Maybe not dependent on, but it is reliant on the people running the event and those that are there. So, Matt, whether it's you and the folks running the event, but also your judges that are operating the event. This goes even to having, player packs and descriptions. I think when people go to an event, and do they have expectations on, a player packet, what missions are included, what terrain? I mean, I think Adepticon this year has done a great job communicating, updated terrain, layouts and, what missions are going to be included. So people have a sense of what they're going to get. There's no surprises when you get to the event. And then from there, it becomes really upset. There'll be some, nobody's ever 100% on reading.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. And from there, it's, from the players and then the judges, right? Like ultimately, this is becoming more and more popular in terms of how some of the war games are described, where it's not you versus an opponent, but it's you and your opponent and a collaborative experience to play the rules of the game, right? And I think that goes a long part to, the judging team having that same sort of approach and really Yep, and having that sort of mentality that's there to have that part of it. So yeah, I think we've already noted we're only a couple of episodes in, but it's already come up a couple of times. We're like, hey, get people read your player packets.
Yeah.
But I don't think we're ever at a point where that gets set. But from there, I think it's really when you're on site, the people running the event, how are they being positive to truly help direct people, and then at the gaming tables, how do the judges really make sure they're doing it? Or Matt, to your point, the painting seminars, right? Adepticon is famous for its painting seminars and painting competitions. That's in part because some of the greatest artists in our hobby keep coming back for this, right?
Yeah.
So it becomes, to the top ITC ranked player, that painting seminar might not mean anything, but to the people in that room for that painting seminar, that might be the most important thing that they go to all year.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, touchy subject. We got to address it. Adepticon, and you've alluded to it earlier on the show, but Adepticon's kind of been a team focused thing from the beginning. Why teams over singles? Was that a cognitive decision, Matt? Why do you guys think teams is the way? Obviously, you do have singles events at Adepticon, but teams have been kind of the spotlighted.
Yeah, I mean, I think you go all the way back to square one with Adepticon when we sat down and figured out when we were just a 40K event. We were like, all right, what are we going to run? Like, we want to run that typical GT experience that is kind of going away, but we wanted to introduce some unique things. We wanted to have something that made coming here a special experience. So we used to run a gladiator event, which was just sort of like break all the rules and, have a ridiculous time. And then the team tournament, which I think even the first year, the team tournament was still technically a singles event, but you had like a collaborative scoring. So it took a couple of years for that to kind of become the 4-person event that it is now. And I would say there's been a couple of times over the 20 years where we kind of had to push pause and say, this is our flagship event. We need to kind of refocus around the team event. Like as competitive 40K kind of got really hot for a minute and the singles event might kind of start to overshadow the needs of the team tournament because we'd been doing it for so long and it was kind of baked in and we weren't given it the TLC that maybe it required. There would be, I can think of at least 2 particular times over the 20 years where we kind of pushed pause and we said, no, this is what we're here for. Cool. This is the flagship event of Adepticon. Everything is important, but this is the thing that really kind of made this event what it is and special. And then we started to branch it out into other game systems over time, right? Mostly in more like a doubles format. Although Sigmar is doing the 4-person event. I think there's even a 4-person event on the Heresy side this year too. So yeah, I mean, we just found that was the event that people would come and talk to us about, the one that got the people the most excited and hyped up, the ones that people literally started planning for like the Monday after Adepticon.
Yeah.
They were like, we're already talking about our next year's team. We don't know what the rules for 40K are going to be at all, right? Like, who knows?
Doesn't matter.
But we're already starting to talk about like what cool things we want to do. So it was obvious that was, that used to draw like 500 plus players. That was like our big event, back when we were 1,300 attendees. That was a huge deal. It's still a huge deal, but 500 out of 8,000 is slightly different. But yeah, I mean, I think that format's great. It creates a camaraderie and a bonding around the hobby that, especially in the internet age, that people can actually do a lot of their planning and hobbying remotely. They don't have to live in the same neighborhood anymore. I think it really has created what I would consider the special parts of Adepticon. Like, there's lots of great singles events, and honestly, there's probably a lot of singles events that are done better than we do, right? Because I mean, that's not our main focus. Like, I mean, we try to do a good event, but like at the end of the day, if we have 10 extra minutes of effort, we're probably going to put it into the team events,
Yeah. Cool. Nick, I know you've been playing in singles events, you've been playing in teams events. I mean, obviously there's benefits to both, but where do you stand right now? What are you going to if you can get one event for a weekend?
Depends on my friend's schedule, I think is the answer to it, right? And the coordination. But I mean, Matt, I think it's the unique part, and Adepticon teams is a little bit different than how some other events have run teams and done that. I really like. there's 52 weekends in the year that we can play Warhammer. Any one of those weekends, I can go out and play a singles tournament, no problem.
Mm.
It's when you're really getting to do something that's a unique format. It still follows a lot of the skeleton that is the makeup of the game, but having a unique format to it allows you to run some different things. So I think, Matt, especially we've seen in some past years, between the hobby showcase and then the unique format of the teams, you get some people that get to just bring out their toys that they only bring out once a year, right? Maybe it's
Oh, yeah.
their Gorkanaut, or maybe it's a Morkanaut. I don't know. Maybe it's their Tesseract Vault. But it's these things where, like, would you ever be able to reasonably play those at a singles event and have a good time playing it for 5 or 6 rounds over a weekend? Probably not. But in a teams format, though, working with your teammates and working with your friends, there's aspects of it that get you graded, especially at something like Adepticon, as it goes to the hobby element, to the sportsmanship in years past, other parts to it. I think those are all really quite fantastic, and that plays a big part into it. Because again, I can look at Goonhammer articles and see what were the best lists each week, and I can try to run that. Or I can go to a team event or something like the Adepticon teams, and I can run something that's themed along with my teammates, and I can just have a blast doing that. So that I think is really the draw of Adepticon. It still has its competitive avenues, it still has its competitive track, for doing those sort of things. But the unique factor, I'm not sure that there's another event that kind of does that as well as Adepticon does. It's one of those things, perhaps many imitators, but no one has reached that level of uniqueness at this point.
Well, it's set up that you could actually do both. So you can,
that too.
you
Now
can play the championships and then play the team tournament and then collapse in a pile.
Yeah.
You should do some sort of like Iron Man ticket.
We did. Yeah,
You do?
we have an Iron Man. I think it was like 18 games of 40K over 2.5 days or something.
I love Warhammer, but not that much.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of Warhammer.
As a long time convention goer, Gen Con, Origins, like whatever, I quickly realized that like cramming your schedule for every possible waking hour with an event is like the worst idea.
It's too much. All right, guys. Wild card question. What is the best piece of swag or merchandise you purchased that you've ever seen at an event? It could be something that you have done at Adepticon. Maybe you've seen it at a convention. It could be totally unrelated to our hobby, just something you thought was really impressive. But I think it's always good practice. I run events, obviously. Matt, you're running a very, very large event. Maybe there's some other really cool ideas of things we can bring in. So, Nick, think hard. Matt, do you have an idea?
Oof, I might have to go way back. So probably even before I got involved in Warhammer.
Yeah.
I used to was a big fan of Iron Crown Enterprises out of I think Virginia. They had the Rollmaster was their big RPG, and they had the Middle Earth role-playing license for a while. And toward the end of the 90s, they did Middle Earth the Wizards, which was a CCG.
Oh, okay.
And absolutely loved that game, at least in its early format. Played that competitively quite a bit. And they had a series of awards that I always thought, like they did these coins. They were like Council of Lorien coins from like the Eldritch Council or whatever. But when you won the big events, you would get basically this wizard's ring, which was like a ring, supposed to be like Gandalf's ring or something like that. I always thought those were cool. I still have those. They're still sitting on my shelf. Out of everything, I don't have any of my piles of skulls from the old GT days. I have those probably wrapped in bubble wrap somewhere, squirreled away, but I got my Middle Earth stuff out. So probably those. I think those are the things I enjoy the most.
Nick, do you have something that you've been thinking about? Because I got one that I saw the other day on TV, surprisingly enough. But all right, what do you think?
This comes from my day job in the medical industry, that sort of thing. But I was at a conference where they had some custom-made Pez dispensers, which I love. Pez dispensers. I have a collection of myself. Even throughout the years in my adult life, I've had family members or friends who will get me like a Lord of the Rings Pez dispenser set, a Star Trek Pez dispenser set. But one conference that had a custom, related to medical industry Pez, dispenser that you got. So that one to me was really special. I'll note this. Kicker, I've shared this idea with you, but we need to have Warhammer events that start having sleeveless t-shirts, some tank tops. Right? Adam Camilleri on Meta Chasers, he's wearing a sleeveless tank most of the time, but we need not normal t-shirts. We have enough of those, folks. Let's get some sleeveless tanks.
I like it. I can get behind that. I gotta say that Hank, one of the directors, one of the co-founders as well of Adepticon that works with Matt, had mentioned to me that at one point there was, I guess, a brewery that had teamed up with you guys that did some like 40K or thematic beers that were sold on site or something like that's kind of cool.
Oh, was it vodka maybe?
I mean, maybe it was vodka. Maybe it was
Yeah,
vodka, but this was a different age when you
yeah,
could when there was less IP infringement and I don't know what was going on there, but they were allowed
yeah.
to have some really
That
thematic
probably was
alcohol.
12,
Yeah,
13 years ago. I want to say, yeah, there was, I think it was Van Gogh vodka. I think
yeah,
someone someone related with Van Gogh is somehow connected to the miniature wargaming world in a secondary job or something. I don't remember all the details there, but there was a couple years where they had thematic drinks or bottles of something
yeah.
at
That's cool.
Adepticon. Yeah.
Well, I saw in Shark Tank earlier this week. I thought it was really cool, especially because we all use phones now to play our game and get pairings. Was basically a battery pack that would be branded with your event. That was just it was a disposable battery pack. It was like retail is very inexpensive, but it was like $6, and you could suddenly charge your phone. And I know at a place like Adepticon or any one of our large events that Green Banner does, like you're going to want to be able to keep your phone fully juiced. And I'm like, that's kind of a very nice
Yeah.
functional
Yeah.
item. So yeah, no, I like these though. I like these. I
I like
think
that
for
idea
Ring.
because we've been trying really hard through the event mobile app to do as much digital as possible. So even if we're talking about rules or
Yeah,
mission packets, being able to deliver as much of that digitally as possible. And I assume we're going to stress people's battery lives.
yeah. Bring a spare battery, guys, to these large events. All right. Well, Nick, where you want to tell people where they can find more about Adepticon and Matt?
Yeah, actually, so Matt, we first and foremost appreciate you for accepting the epic challenge today to come on and talk about the growth and expansion of Adepticon. I think, as we've talked about, it really is quite a unique event, one that continues to grow and expand in the market. As I'm excited, like I said, I haven't been able to attend because of conflicts with my day job, but it's certainly on the list. It's on that Mount Rushmore of Warhammer events that you have to go to at some
It's
point.
I feel the same way about GaryCon. Like,
yeah.
I don't know why I haven't been to GaryCon. It's always on the same weekend as Adepticon. That's probably why. But
There we
the
go.
fact I've never gone feels criminal. But yeah,
Yeah. So Matt, where can folks and we're going to be releasing this episode right before or shortly before Adepticon and the event. But if they're looking, are there still tickets they can get, or if they're looking for coverage of the event, are there places that they can check out to learn about Adepticon and perhaps follow some of the events when it is running live.
sure. Yeah. So Adepticon.org is our main website. We also have a pretty big Facebook presence for news. We do have a mobile app that anybody could to download. So if you hit up your app store and look for Cvent events, download that and look for Adepticon inside there. You can download the mobile app. There's really not much that isn't blocked for non-attendees. And within there, we'll have streaming schedules too, and they'll also be posted on the website. So we'll have Games Workshop Warhammer will be there streaming, I think primarily 40K.
Yep.
There's a whole bunch of streaming coming out of the AMG Hall for all the Star Wars properties and Marvel Crisis Protocol. And then I know there's a bunch more. I mean, I couldn't even keep track of all the streaming is huge, right? So
Yeah.
there'll be a lot of streaming coming out of there. I mean, we have primarily relied on the community to document the event. Like, we've hired a photographer here and there, but we ended up quickly realizing the community just does a way better job than we ever would. So we do have some people on staff that will be documenting things, but yeah, I mean, primarily we'll be trying to be live, not live, but posting updates and photos on Instagram and stuff as the weekend goes too. So
fantastic.
But and to your point, tickets, no, that's pre-registration has been closed. But you can, if you're in the Milwaukee area, for instance, get badges and tickets for open events on site starting Thursday morning. And one unique thing that we do is we've been open to the public for probably 15 years.
Yeah.
We don't charge just to walk into the event or even get into the exhibitor hall. So
That's amazing. That's amazing. And
a
you
badge
have
is required to participate in any of the sort of perks of Adepticon.
Yeah.
But if you just want to come up and take a look at all the craziness, see the Army showcase, do a little shopping in the exhibitor hall, we fully encourage that. We find it, a lot of the times it'll be a parent who, their 10-year-old kid is like interested in this stuff, but they don't want to pay $65 just to look at something that they don't know if their kid is even into, right? So bring them up, check it out, wander around, take it in, and come back next year and play in an event.
That is amazing.
Yeah, I gotta say, Matt, best luck, best wishes for you guys. We can't talk about Milwaukee without noting that it is the good land, as we all learned from Wayne's World, from the Algonquin, Milwaukee.
Excellent.
So yes, party time. Excellent. That'll be Adepticon next weekend. Party time.
Party time. Excellent.
I think so. I think there'll be a lot of that. Yes.
And guys, next week we will also have a very special episode. This one is going to be a little controversial. We're talking judging, what's good, what's bad, and how can we fix the many, many issues there are out there. So definitely stay tuned for next week. Nick, you want to take us out?
Yeah, absolutely. So folks, check out Adepticon, check out all the information that Matt mentioned. If you're able to go check it out on site in Milwaukee, go for it, or any of the streaming that'll be done for it. Matt, again, thank you for joining Epic Challenge this week.
Having me.
And that's it, folks. So until next time, have a good one. Enjoy your wargaming.
Thanks for listening to Epic Challenge. If you enjoyed the show, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. And be sure to check out Green Banner Event Co., the ones who help make this show possible. Tune in next week for another Epic Challenge.